moving to oneness. Nourishing curiosity. Embracing differences. Becoming one.
Hello everyone. Look, I have a huge smile, excitement on my face, within my body, because the pre-conversation we had for this podcast episode today is very special. I mean, every episode is special, but this one is different. And again, because of the timing and how the landscape of our blue planet, where we both are located, is talking to us and bringing information. So stay tuned of what fascinating wisdom will be revealed and what wisdom will be pulled out of you. So hello everyone, I'm Meilin, your host of the Moving to Oneness podcast, and I'm sitting in Germany, and we had been talking about the weather. It has had a lot of rain today, though there is none, which I took advantage of and was outside and in my garden and playing with my plants and my cat. On the other side of the Atlantic, I have my beautiful, wise wisdom keeper, Dr. Anita Sanchez, in Boulder, Colorado, where the weather is hot, and is bringing out transformation, speedy transformation, because of the fires that are here. So first of all, thank you very much, Anita, for taking the time early morning to be with me on the show and to bring your very beautiful, gentle, and all-encompassing wisdom. We'll talk about that. That's in your book. We'll share a little bit as well today with the audience. But first of all, thank you for coming, being with me. I'm very, very honored to be in your presence.
I am too. I'm so glad now that we actually know each other in this way, because of course we do already know. We already knew we were connected, but this feels really good. I'm excited to be here and to be with your viewers.
Yes, you know, the connectiveness, and the topic of this podcast, oneness, is that we are all made out of multiple particles that have existed for 14 billion years, right? And reform each other. And we are able to utilize these particles first in embodying our own wisdom within us, right? But each one of us also has the ability to reform in any moment, the particles into something new. So everyone, stay tuned and learn how you can even change and make even more beautiful your life and the environment around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you have a fascinating environment behind you, a painting of a dry landscape at the desert, Pueblo, Mexico, southern
yes, it's
US, right? Where is that?
It's in New Mexico, just south of Colorado, where I am. And there's construction happening on my home. So this is the little room I found, and I took from my living room this large painting because I just love the colors. And when people go to the desert, it's like all of us, we can see and we can limit what we see, or we can go further and expand and sense even more. And so, of course, artists, especially when you go and see the sand, people think yellow, nothing there. And instead, it's very alive, as is everywhere. And as you said, I love that, because in every moment, in every breath, in every thought, we get to make a choice. And we have that kind of power. And not only individually, but collectively, when we do that, it's remarkable. So thank you for seeing this. And I wanted everyone to see some beautiful color here in the United States that exists.
Yeah, because you also have a turquoise, and that is a stone that is very particular to your regions where you also come from, and
Yes.
your heritage, right? And it is important, I believe, that we use stones, maybe wood, a plant or something that comes from our environment where we are born, it as our own medicine to
It is.
help us, support us, guide us, co-create, right? It is a medicine to feel more comfortable, and that provides an embrace to who we are.
Yes. So part of my indigenous, I'm half indigenous, and then the other half is Mexican, Spaniard. Actually, stories I don't have of Eastern Europe, Hungary, and of Greece and the UK. So there's my relatives moved all over the world, but half of me is indigenous, and a big part of that is from Central Mexico, where the turquoise does come from. Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely right. I love that, and now I know what you told me about your your viewers are very much more steeped into an understanding of everything around us, that it does matter, and the appreciation of it. And so I wore this in particular, as you said, to remind me and ask for my ancestors to bring their prayers and strengths, as they always do, to be in a conscious way. And I also added another piece. Most of these pieces are all given or family. And this piece has lots of different animals. And so I'm particularly wanted to wear that, conscious of that, this hoop of life, this one hoop of life, connects all of us. No one's higher, no one's lower, all the sacredness of all of this in the beings, but particularly at this time with this smoke. So on one hand, there's great beauty, but all the particles, the toxic particles that exist from the fires and the things that are burning. And so I'm wearing this and also asking the ancestors, pray to take care of the birds and the four-leggeds and the trees, all of our relatives out here that, at different times we have bears walking through our mountain lines. I'm right on the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. And at different times, I just want to I wish I could bring you in, because I'm filtering the air. But even as I filter the air with the air conditioning, I know it also has an impact. Mm-hmm. So it's like just having that awareness, not in terms of being solemn and, everything heavy, or I know all of us have days that look like this, but what it really is to just at the same time to be aware of what is and also what's possible, so we can put our energy now into what we want to create, which is what this lovely conversation is about, is that attuning us to what is present, so that we can be a life-giving force again in every moment, bringing into alignment the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. And there's so many ways to do that. And one of them, as you just called out, is just how we present ourselves and what we're carrying in our heart. And so this is a reminder of me that I'm carrying beyond time, past, present, and future, but also all of my relatives that I am a part of, and they are part of me. There is no separation.
No, it is not. And you're funny, you're talking about it. Today also I had to think about, and I mean, not think about, but I knew I needed to wear something with flowers. Yeah, so often when I even go shopping, my body moves me to clothing, because even clothes become our medicine. Here, my big collaborator, yes. Right? Yeah. Mayuka also comes originally.
Yes, exactly.
Area is their part. There is it lightens me up. It provides energy, even though that is just a fabric. But the love of a design went in there. A person had to think about the flower, the colors, right? And for me, then this again is the connection as the person who designed it, even produced it, had to flowers and the reminders, right, of of growth, of coming out, communicating with the sun, taking in the air, feeling the water on us. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm
Absolutely.
very, yeah, I'm no, okay. I'm always connected with nature since I'm a little girl. And once then I also studied landscape architecture when I lived in the US. And yeah.
So you are very connected. And I am too, one just from early on, my Aztec and a grandmother, I call it Nawa is the tribe, but most people know it as Aztec. And she, I think from early on, her and my mother, we were always outside because every day part of our practice was, giving gratitude to the earth and to the plants and that give us oxygen and, just all on and on and on. And as you spoke, if I could, I really want to share a story because it fits with what we're talking about, especially when we have the challenges that are happening with the flooding in your area and the smoke in our area, the fires, and all the things that the prayers and the consciousness of Mother Earth who's been calling us for some time to pay attention to what we're creating. But when I was about 4, my little sister was 2, my older sister was around 7. We spent the weekend at Grandma's house, and she told us that Friday that on Saturday we were going to wake up in the dark, and that every hour we were going to go out by her garden and we were to be quiet for 5 minutes. So we're little kids, so that's kind of a hard thing to do. But we always just knew we wanted always to please our grandma. So we did that. So she took us out Saturday morning. The sun's coming out, we go out, we stand by her garden. It's August, it's in the Midwest, it's very humid and warm. And the sunflowers are there, and she had lots of sunflowers. And so we're standing there in silence for 5 minutes. Then we go off and we're playing and doing things. And then we brings us back the next hour. And as you can start imagining, the sunflowers turn to face the sun. And all day long, I can feel it just telling you. So this is probably a gift not only to all those who are listening, but to myself, as I'm also looking out the window at the smoke, is that to follow the sun. And so every hour we did that. And I remembered later in the morning, I was like eager for the 5 minutes to happen. I could feel it in my body and just turning. And then nighttime came and we went in and we had a late dinner for us. And then she said, okay. And we were like, we're going to go outside again. I thought we were just doing this, we're just sort of looking at each other. So but she grabbed a flashlight. We went out and we're standing there and we started to speak. And she said, shh. And she clicked on the flashlight and we realized we were all in circle facing each other. And then she turned the flashlight over to the sunflowers and they were all facing each other. Yes. And so this is how I grew up, is that in a very embodied way, taking into all the different realms of awareness of who we are and what we are. And so that was one of the many times that I got to experience really being one with a plant relative, but also the many lessons. And I know that you and the others who are viewing will have many more that come from that story, but just some of the main ones that came out. My grandmother said nothing to us when we went back in, because she knew that our own sacredness, we would understand. And so how that has helped me now as an adult, but also through my childhood, is to know, even in the darkest times, the light, we can face each other because we are light. We are the sacred beings, but also always turn to the sun. Every day is a new day. And so that means that we have to put all the things in place so that way we can operate as a life-giving force rather than a destructive, separating one. And I'm forever grateful for that. And I feel as I go through life, the ancestors, my immediate relatives, the time I spend in the Amazon, all over, I feel like I'm always being called back to a remembering, not even necessarily discovering. I feel like it's already deep in there. I think what is anew is, like you said, in the context of this time, that we get to live some of the most amazing lives because we get to help together co-create a world that really is thriving, that was meant to be harmonious. that two-leggeds have forgotten how to be in harmony and oneness. So you're moving to oneness is so appropriate, because that is indeed the I say gentle urgent. Both is true. With our softest part of our ears, we are to listen so that we know how to move, and expanding heart, so we know that it embraces all of us to create this oneness, to remember. So I just, even though my throat is a little scratchy and things, I know that, again, this is an important time for all of us. We all matter. It doesn't matter our circumstances, because our circumstances are just what we're far more than that. So we have to keep moving. And I say that not in a frivolous way. There's great suffering. And in Indian country with the COVID, and I talk to Indigenous people all over the world, there's great suffering and death that's happening in a much larger way than in other arenas. So there's great loss that's happening. At the same time that there's sadness, we also know that the prophecies are unfolding at this time that have been telling us that, that the bones will rise. And so they're just finally discovering all the mass graves of the Indigenous children here in the Americas. And they were getting to take our children back. And people, the blindness to what has been going on, how human beings treat human beings. And what I say is to really be present with your heart and mind and your gut, because the footprint we put on each other is the same footprint we put on Mother Earth. The footprint we put on Mother Earth is the same footprint we put on each other, because we are indeed all one. And people talk about that as if it's all separate. But moving to oneness, thank you so much.
That's something that really was, since I'm a tiny girl, I felt connectiveness. I don't know, and I've also traveled the world, and I feel comfortable. I feel curious about people. I feel curious, or I am curious about growth, about existence, how we embody ourselves. So for me, as a child, I then sometimes become silent when I saw not all of it was lived as what that was spoken. And more now in my life, I want to bring back in a way our natural state, and to make an understanding. When you said about remembrance, it's remembering how we once lived. And then I really think we have to go very, very far back, maybe 10,000 years, to the knowledge that we can move much faster. I speak sometimes about this, I have cerebral palsy, but when I connect with the mountains, and it doesn't matter what mountains I'm in, but here also in the Alps, suddenly I can be like a runner, or I can be like a goat. I can climb up these creeks, like nothing else, because then this is connectiveness with the energies, where you may have much more information about. But right, we get ourselves being drawn by the mountain or by a tree, or we feel pushed. So that gives you, if once experienced that, a whole new way of understanding. We so feel often that we're just being placed on this earth. It's also how we're taught, maybe to feel on purpose disconnected. Yeah. Because for also singularity, and you also speak so much about community and how many things come together to make us thrive and be who we are, so that we feel this harmony, this flow. And flow is not just a river, but that even the energies, when you lean against a tree, you can feel the energies coming in, and you can feel the energies of your body going into the tree. And there's a communication starting, right? This is our community, and that we have the star nations that come and provide. They've always been here. It's nothing new. And that everyone is here and is seeking. And I sense that really strong in the time for what I think the newness is, to really who are we? What are we really able to do? What can we pull out of ourselves, of our history, out of the wisdom? And in many, many countries, our ancient wisdom was destroyed, right, by conquerors. And we can go back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, depending where we talk about on this planet. And so this is now also a time where, because there is this curiosity of everyone, and you can feel it, and I think COVID is bringing out this curiosity, as well as these landscapes that are, or the weather conditions that are talking to us, and the landscapes that is circle is also talking to us and bringing what is really how we treat the landscape and how we use the landscape, right? So all these things, and how do we communicate in community? And are we separate? No, we are, you know, we've always traveled the world. We both are beautiful examples of multicultural within our blood. So that even there is no separation, and we can bring all that wisdom back together. And because now there is this looking for this wanting to embody it, wanting to feel it, wanting to be part of it. That's what I sense from everyone around the world, that now our wisdom, our ancient wisdom, is reappearing, or what survived is showing up. We can see it. You was talking about graves, right? But we also here able in Europe, for example, we're finding ancient caves that no one has found, right? Or somewhere else, crystals are coming out of the ground, and the list goes on. Or we know there's much more land now underwater, or you were able to walk once from, you know, through the Bering Strait all the way to Africa. There was no water separate. So you see, there is this, who are we really? That is what is being looked for. And what is really our natural state? And are we able to live it now? And how do we get there? And these whole conversations also of these huge dimensions of life and death, of living environment or not, and communicating with each other around the world is there's no word for it, but it's one.
I know, it's just
out and celebrate.
Yes, it's so expansive. It's really hard to find the words. One of the things you bring up for me by what you just said, though, is I know from the time I was little, my uncle would be teaching us about the people, and he would always start with a number of things, and you brought that to mind for me, which is the best place to start is the beginning. And so you always start with talking about those that came before. And it's exactly what you said, like, go back. And some people go back. Why would we do it? Waste our time doing that? No, go back, because that's in you. That's the beginning. And so here in this country, in the US, there are so many people from Europe, but they've disconnected. They don't know that history. And so I often say to them, who are generally the majority of the population, is to go back and find. I mean, you can literally go back, but you can also in dream time go back, discover more about who you are and what you are. And you will find about your ancestors as you do that, that you will find great strength that have come from them, but you also will dispel a lot of the myths and the things that we get to clean up for our ancestors too, who are just so happy. Again, we're in a different context, a different awareness, so we're able to do that. And as people do that, they realize, oh my gosh, we just always looked at you, Indigenous people or other people, color, Black folks, like you had a culture, but we don't. I'm just like, that's absurd. We're all sacred. We all have the past, present, and future. We all get to draw on this, and in every moment we're drawing on all our relatives. So when you said that, really important. And then the second thing he would say, so start at the beginning, because if we don't, then our skin will be numb, our skin will be dumb, which means that we will think that what is happening today came out of nothing. It's not true, you know? And just as it didn't come out of nothing, tomorrow comes out of what we intend and do as well. So it's not at all hopeless or anything. It's really powerful. And then the other thing that he would say is that often the toughest, but always the most rewarding journey is the journey from the head to the heart and back again. And that one day we will understand it is the journey from the heart to the head and back again. And what he was saying to us, and I didn't understand it then, is that so much of the outer is all about the mind, and we've developed the mind to a great degree, but it's disconnected from our own heart. And now we're starting to understand our heart is more than a muscle, a powerful muscle, but that there's a knowing from our heart and that our mind can follow along. So that journey that happens there in any moment. But then he would always go further because it was always back about the hoop. And the remembering then in this journey that we are all one relative. The Lakota call it Mitakio Asen. In Aztec, I can't say the words, but it is a oneness. And it's all of us knowing that in our beingness, and that's really what it is about, from our beingness, this awareness of how we be in alignment impacts how we do. But in the larger society, as these tumultuous things are happening, we do need to be in action. But it's like still so many are in pain and confusion trying to figure out what to do, that they're like, oh, let's do something. Let's do something else. Let's do this. We need to change it. So let's do, without regard of, wait a minute, it's how your being impacts our doing. So bring those together. Because otherwise we just, again, a lot of unintended consequences that are negative to the whole hoop of life. And so as you said all that, I'm just delighted because in my talks, generally, I'm always telling people, go back and find out about your ancestors. And no, you don't have to buy a ticket to get somewhere. You can just do that in various ways of discovering that. I'm in that process now because I don't have stories about that part of me. Half of me is indigenous, but part of that comes from Mexico, from the Nahua, the Aztecan people. But other part comes from the desert of what is probably around Southwest US. I don't have those stories. And then what totally flabbergasted me was from the analysis was that a part of that DNA is from the Amazon. And I always wondered, like, for 15 years, I have been engrossed in the Amazon. And I started leading journeys in 2007 was my first time to go down there. And until this last year and this year, I'm not taking people there. But I feel so at home there, is what you talked about, running up the riverbeds. Well, I'm there and I know I couldn't survive without the help of the other two-leggeds who understand this amazing space and place called the sacred headwaters of the Amazon. But I can move there and people are like, what are you doing? I mean, it's uneven grounds, but somehow I know how to move. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I learned about my ancestry. And the people there said, oh yeah, no, we felt your spirit. You've been here long, long ago. A lot of women you come from, and you've been here. And that's the kind of awakening, so that we know that we can draw on these strengths that we have, this ability to shift and to be nimble, to flex, to be one with the water, to be one with the air, to be one with all of this, because we are it. We're not separate. And then we can address, this isn't not just about, oh, isn't it wonderful, our oneness? And it is. But part of the wonderfulness of the oneness is that we can make a difference in the lives of all our relatives, in the systems and structures that need to be changed, and the systems and structures that are alive and are life-giving, to reinforce those. So it's, again, holding on to all of it.
It's like balsam.
Yes.
When
yes.
you speak. You were reminding me, I had a teacher. He a landscape architect teacher, and he came from the prairie lands, and he would sleep on a site for a few days to understand it and to listen it. At that time, I was not so much interested yet in shamanic work, but I thought that was fascinating. And also he built his house into the landscape and didn't do anything. that was the most beautiful landscape. So he gave me a lot of a thought already along. And then also what I want to give to you, the listener, is when you're out in the landscape, often you have thoughts, ideas that you sense or you hear or know. I should say there's more of a knowing that you know what was here once, what has happened here. And please don't push it aside. Stay with it for a moment and listen and feel even more. Feel the bottoms with the bottoms of your feet, right? Maybe be barefoot and feel what's below you, what's next to you, what's above you. And those thoughts are right. And over time, and Anita, you spoke so beautifully about it, we have to find our wisdom. So for many of us, and there was once I forgot his name, I'm so bad at the Mexican shaman. He was also starting through dream time, finding many rituals. One of my teachers also, had to find ancient rituals again and adapt them a little bit to these times. And this is happening all over the world, that we are remembering. And so if you do remember, please write things down, have a book, maybe share it with someone so you've spoken it out, and then you don't, say, oh, this was just a thought. I'm not thinking about this anymore. Because as you get ignited, and ignition it starts in the heart and then it goes upward and then our whole body. We also are in the time where the landscape gets ignited again, right? It is, many of us are gate openers or bring memory. A lot of women of us, we're remembering that when we come together, we are these huge channels of bringing wisdom, right? So go out into the landscape with friends and see what happens. So stay open, become curious where your body takes you, where you go on vacation. There are reasons. Maybe take a moment and look backwards. Where have you been in your life to go on vacation? What was a certain similarity? Why were you there? Was it the wind? Was it because there's always water? So there is a certain connectiveness to it. Take time to pull that in and see, ooh, that's part of you, right? Like, even though I don't live at the ocean, water is very important. I'm always somewhere where there's wind. I even have married then someone who even gets drawn more to the windy water. And so that's what I've learned, that I'm those two things and that they come together and that the water creates. And anyway, all about water.
No,
even though I'm sitting in the dry lands. But for everyone, there is the ability, and I think Anita and me, we are examples, and many others. Look for others that take the time to find out more where you live, and also sacred sites, right, Anita? We often see only the big things that we've, temples or pyramids, but there are many sacred sites around where you live in your landscape. So go out, look for those. Again, where do you get drawn to? Where are the springs? Where open fields where you sense maybe they're landing places for star nations, or where there were gathering places? Like, you're right, I found an ancient Druid place right here where you can sense so much work has been done, and people still go there, and children suddenly, when they're really happy. So observe, where are your children happy? They're very fine-tuned. Follow them maybe a little bit when you're in the landscape. So all
absolutely.
Little tricks I needed to share.
A lot of those things are so practical, and following the children is so important. I spent a lot of time talking to elders and incorporating that into my life and my teachings and just in their ceremonies together. But we were really clear that elder is not talking about age. And we have so many young people come in, and they are elders. Some will call them elders rising, but nonetheless, we need to be listening to them. They have not separated. They have not forgotten all the cynical things that happen and make people cynical in their lives. They're so much closer that it's just so powerful. And when you do this, what is happening is you are being very conscious of being not only nurtured, which you always are, but then that reminds you of the oneness, so that in every step you take, you literally, I remember my grandmother and my mom teaches us, they were short, but kind of large, round, beautiful women. But when they walked, it was so soft, even when they had heels, because they were like, we're always kissing the earth. We're also always watching to not, hurt the flowers nearby. If we do, we bend down and smell it because it has its purpose in life. And we want to give gratitude to it. But you're getting filled up. And it reminds me of a quick story. One of the many years where I'm down in the summer leading a group in the sacred headwaters. And often they're invited to do this plant ceremony, ayahuasca. And I'm merely supporting, so I don't take it. And yet at the same time, to say you don't take something, again, all of this is around us and affects us. So everyone, I get to bed, and I look, and there on the equator, you see the north and south stars. And it was so brilliant and huge. I just remember standing there, and I remember at first straining with my eyes. When you see such beauty, you just all want to take it all out. I just don't want to. And then all of a sudden I realized, as I expanded my heart more and kind of let go of my mind and my need for my eyes to see it all, I all of a sudden had this experience of, I was taking this in with my entire being, with every part of my body, every cell, and extended out. And I know that there was a transmission, and there always is a transmission. It's not just when you go, it's whether you're open to it, it's happening. So we're in this place of, we need to receive and give. And so one of these things of reciprocity, a principle that has gotten out of balance, we're even forgotten, but that we're always in this. And so then you give back, and then that energy was a source to be able to then come back and then be present to even more, and to help reinforce all of those who are leaders out creating change. And we're just all doing this for each other, and then back to listening. But one of the key things here that I see is that, as you said, again, coming back to moving to oneness, we are all one. But one of the greatest paths to awaken to that, to remember to keep, is listening. And how often are we taught to listen? And yet when we do that with the softest part of our ear and expanding heart, and I keep saying that because I believe that's a couple of ways to help us do that, that so much is given. And my early life, on one hand, was so beautiful, and elders, and on the other hand, there was extreme financial poverty, abuse. And then at 13, my father was murdered, and it was race related. And one of the things that I know for sure is that being able to call on this knowing of this oneness, of having a worldview that everything is interconnected, that allowed to go through the process of all the healing, all the things that need to take place. And I don't mean to act as if it's done. One continues. There's deeper and deeper levels of finding the oneness. But in each one, you go, oh my gosh, there's more. And so every day I wake up and go, wow, it's another great day for healing. Yeah. And my children, when they were little, they go, I think you're the only mom that ever says that. And I go, I don't know. I think there are other moms that said that, but it is a great day. It's a great day to be alive. It's a great day. The sun is out again. But it's a great day to heal. It's a great day to forgive. It's a great day to be in unity. It's a great day to dream and to vision again, to have hope in action. And I feel like today is one of those days again, like every day. It has its unique place. And
yeah,
you
were talking about your book, the four sacred gifts, where exactly these come in. It's this combination. But again, your painting pulled me in. I had to think about energies, right? Energies flow together. It's not a strict line. They're like this, like the colors, right? They come in many different colors behind your painting come in. But if you look at a meadow full with flowers, the same thing happens. It's not just a strip of one kind of flowers and then a strip of another flower, you know, or grasses. It is this like swale that are intermingling, and then right here one, and then there, and then there's a whole group. And it is this, weaving is sometimes too structural for me, the word. It's more playful, and it's more vibrant, like you just said.
But dancing.
Look at all of it, and as we go and look what happened to me, why was it important for me, and what did I learn about it, what give out, right, and help someone else. This is then the forgiveness of right, and then we create together, and we share, and we heal, and we provide hope for ourselves and for others. So everyone, you do have to read her book. I'm going to put for sure the notes to it in the show notes, that you can explore it a little bit, because you explained it so easy. You start so simple with food and with the breath, and then just, I would say, becoming aware of everything that exists. And this, each action we do in our daily life is important. And these turn all of your actions into medicine. And like we were talking today about taking, when you feel like it, you need to wear the turquoise or what your ancestors provided. Again, don't push it aside, just do it. Doesn't matter. So give yourself permission to believe in your own knowingness and act on it in your way. Like I chose this one. I even washed it really quick and laid it out in the sun because I knew this had to be the dress, right? So I did this extra action, and it was not something else that was already ready. There is you spoke about that for a second. There is this urgency at the moment. And please, everyone, the urgency is here. We are right now in these very strong, powerful, profited time, 2021, 22, thousands of years, they spoke about this already, where this extreme change comes, this going around. And so your input is as important as my input, as Anita's input, so as all of our input. And it's important. What do you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that invitation you're making, I hear you making it over and over again in different ways, and with a gentle but compelling heart, is the invitation to hear the call and then to act on it. Because the reality is that call, yes, it's coming from all here, but it's coming from inside too, because we are water. We're 50 to 65% water. We are all the minerals. We are the stardust. We are all these things. And in every moment, it's almost, to me now, absurd to think of separation, because I know in every breath, your gratitude to the plants, and so when these forest fires happen because of the global warming, is like, oh my gosh, we've destroyed these plants, and they have life energy, and they also give life energy, and we give them the carbon, and so all this we're disrupting is we need to listen, and then to act from that wisdom that both is within, and that is here for us from nature itself, the wisdom from the true indigenous elders, the wisdom keepers of all different traditions. There isn't a one. Again, this hoop has great diversity. So to be able to draw on all of that. So we have just so many, I don't want to call it resources. There's so much that we're relatives that we're part of that are helping us do that. So for me, of a lifetime already, before I received these gifts in the 90s with the Eagle Hoop prophecy, those 4 gifts that you'll put a note to people about, is that when I started using, because I began to start to forget, to feel hopeless, that how are we going to bring the hearts of people together all over the world? I've been doing that formally through diversity and inclusion for decades at that point. But then when I got these gifts, I was like, oh, all right. That the spirit, the elders with spirit telling them, use these 4 gifts and you will know, you will remember how to create balance and harmony. And I so like that. It wasn't like, oh, you're all wrong. You're all, because what's going on right now in the separateness, the thing that unites all the separateness right now, one of them is righteousness. Well, you know, righteousness is not going to get us there, but the oneness, the love, that knowing that we are intimately interconnected in this oneness, that love, that's going to pull us through. And so I'm just glad there are all these different ways, some of them quite ancient, some of them newer prophecies that are unfolding that we are part of. And so I just want to join my voice in the invitation to everyone, regardless of your age, whether you're 5 or whether you're 95, you know, you're here. And in my wisdom tradition, even when you leave the earthly plane, you are still present as an energy, as a source of a knowing. And I call on that wisdom all the time. So for me, I know lots talk about what's birthing and dying, but in terms of this hoop, I think a lot of it is about birthing and rebirthing. And yes, there's the process just as in nature of the different seasons. What we call death looks like death, but there's a rebirthing, a resurgence that's happening under the earth for the newness. So I think when we think of ourselves like that and not in separation, at least for me, what I'll say has been true, is that it is such a source that I know, even in my tears and sobs of seeing such pain and hurt that seems so needless, I also at the same time give gratitude because I know we're being made aware of it on a large global scale so that we can change the course. And that's indeed what every one of us have the power to be a part of that.
So this is something I've always, I'm positive in a way. And I always see the good, what comes out of everything. You know, I can smile when I'm in tears because even that I take a look and say, oh, it makes me aware. It's a new way of approaching something, or something has transformed or transmuted or collapsed, right? It's this movement, and you made everyone do watch the video. First of all, you have to look at the painting if you're listening. But Anita, you also always made with your arms, always the image. So the whole time you were creating circles of us coming together, also very inviting always, that we all come together, that we learn about each other, that we listen to each other, that we're still long enough to really see what is behind each person, right? Where do they come from? What is curiosity happened? And go back. And I sense that. And you also bring that so beautifully in the world. You travel and travel and travel. At the moment, maybe a little bit more difficult, but that will pick up. And then we have this, you know, this internet version of travel that you do. And thank you for doing that. And thank you for receiving at that time your vision and the way and acting on it. Yeah, everyone. So Anita did act on it. I, in a way, act on it by creating this podcast. And we know that it is for each tiny action is going to grow. Like when we were speaking about, right, the seed, the flower that grows out of the seed, then it becomes to soil, and one day it will become stone. And again, another day, something will rub along, or you may carry it and it travels the world, that stone, and brings its wisdom around the world.
I love stones. Those are the ears of the earth. And so lots of wisdom comes out of the stones and things. I want to mention that when I do this hoop, it is about inviting, it's reminding that we're all one. But I also want to quote Black Elk, who understand, like the quantum physicists are starting to catch up now, that in this hoop of life, the center is everywhere. So I want you to hear that. The center is everywhere and the edge is nowhere. Wow, look at what we're a part of. So I felt that come through, and that Black Elk would love us to understand that. The center, so you are the center is everywhere and the edge is nowhere.
Yeah, this is what, when we speak about infinity, these were beautiful, beautiful words. Thank you for being with us and sharing your energy, your love, your playfulness and softness and gentleness. And in a way, it's like an energy one can fall back into. And I thank you for that. So if you don't want to stand and use all of your strengths and energy to stand, sometimes let yourself fall back, and you see and have felt today the energy of Anita to just fall into her energy or her loop or hoop, circles, whatever. Yeah, whatever she brings to you. And soak that in, as I have today, listening to your beautiful stories, Anita, of wisdom that keep on ringing out as you have spoken, will be carried by the wind far, far and far. So,
thank you so much. And I want to thank you for the elders whose messages I carry from the Eagle Hoop Prophecy. And I know you're going to write more as people want to hear more, learn more, just go to four-sacredgifts.com, FOUR sacredgifts.com. And like the video you saw, that's 5 or 6 minutes, and it has all sorts of other things. But this is all meant for all of us. This prophecy and these gifts, Spirit was really clear. No, this isn't just to go back to your own indigenous locations, which is everywhere in the world, but it's for all humanity. It's really clear. So thank you for allowing me to share that and for being with you. And I feel so filled up, and I know this is going to last far more than a day. And so the best to all you and to all those who are viewing.
Mm-hmm. So again, thank you everyone for listening. Do connect with Anita on the Facebook group, Moving to Oneness. Or if you have questions, write her and put that in as well in the notes, or write me and I'll connect you. And be who you are. Bring out your light into the world. Do what you love best. And we're here to support you. And as you've heard, everything else that's existing. Goodbye. I'm Meilin, your host of the Moving to Oneness podcast.
It's all in flow.